Welcome to This Is Not Legal Advice. I'm your host, TINLA. This is going to be a bit of a different reading than I've ever done or seen anyone else do. Today was a tough day around the world as we were facing a deadline of potential extreme violence in Iran. And as an American, I want the world to know that we are very concerned, but and none of us really want this. That being said, I'm going to start asking some questions. We're going to get some answers if we can through tarot to some of the pressing questions that we all have here. So that being said, let's get political. Let's just do it, right? Let's just do it. Okay, Spirit, there's discussion about opening the Strait of Hormuz in the next 2 weeks or facing consequences. Can you please tell us about that, Spirit? What does that mean? What's that going to look like? All right, we have the 10 of Coins, the Queen of Coins, the 10 of Swords. Bear with me. One more, the Queen of Cups. Okay, so far, in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, what this is telling me is we are going to see it reopen at least partially, but not enough to stop the immediate consequences of what has already been done. With this 10 of Coins or 10 of Pentacles, I'm reading this as things are going to continue to get expensive. And I do think it's getting better. There will be a small concession on part of Iran that may aid and reduce the stress of the financial impact of what's been going on with the Strait of Hormuz. But with the 10 of Swords, something is ending, and I'm hoping that it's the ending with this Queen of Cups. It seems like it's an ending to hostilities that are unnecessarily being brought about. There's a peace offering, maybe something to grow in the future between the countries. You can see there's that plant there that's being watered with love. So it appears to me that this is the end of a very painful cycle that maybe will lead to some growth and some healing, but not, well, I can't say why it is, but I can tell you that it seems to me the strait will be opened at least in part in the near future, and I asked specifically about the next 2 weeks. After that, what would happen? What's happening after the 2 weeks has passed, please, Spirit? What's happening after the 2 weeks? Ace of Wands. And I'll get one more. I'm going to try to slide this over a little bit. The Page of Coins, which is my confirmation card. That's Page of Pentacles. So I want to add, before I start interpreting these based on what I'm feeling from Spirit, that, and I'm going to put this to the side for advice later, there's obviously a lot of pentacles here, right? We have 3 of the 6 cards that have been pulled are pentacles, which talks to me about money. This is monetary in nature. This war, okay, that has not been declared by Congress officially, is about money. It's about oil and money, because I'm looking at somebody digging, right? And they're digging for oil and to increase profits. This is a monetary war. This is not about principle. I'm reading this Ace of Wands as, with the white smoke, it's almost like a white flag of surrender in a sense, or things aren't completely done in this situation with Iran, because there's still interest in the oil there and in making money. And although it may seem like there's peace being reached and a new start of peace, there's a way out with this ladder. There is a way out of this developing quagmire, and it seems like there's going to be peace, but there's still something aflame. There's still something happening. So I don't think we're out of the woods. Even if the Strait of Hormuz does open, as I'm indicating here, at least partially, any kind of peace is ephemeral. It's not going to be there very long, because there is still this greed and this desire for oil. So my next set of questions is, and I want to point out also while I'm getting my next deck, that beginning on April 9th and through May 18th, Mars is in Aries, and Aries in of course mythology was the god of war. I guess we can't say that, I'm not positive, but I don't want to risk it because I think this is an important message. And Mars is at home in Aries, and Mars is another name for Aries, just to be clear. That's how tied together they are. And so it does not bode well for long-term peace if this is a time of unrest, being with, again, Mars being in Aries, and that being the home sign for strife, for divisive action, or decisive action, excuse me, and potentially fighting, and war. And that really is driving home what I'm seeing here with this Ace of Wands, where there is a path to peace, and it looks like we're at peace, but there's really this fire that is not, it's not over. So what I'm going to ask about next is, what will it be like, excuse me, before we get to this one, a lot of us are waiting for what some people would call the big, beautiful obituary. And so my question is, Spirit, will we receive the news in the big, beautiful obituary in the next week? Will we see that in the next week? Be careful what you wish for, okay? Let's just put a pin in that. What about the next 2 weeks? Will we get the big, beautiful obituary in the next 2 weeks? Yes, but it will take a while to be known or to manifest. Okay. Spirit, please clarify, in the next month, by the end of the next month, will this manifestation of the big, beautiful obituary come to fruition? Have patience. And soon at the bottom of the deck. So I'm reading this as within the next 2 weeks, there will be a health crisis that doesn't quite result in the big, beautiful obituary, but is very swiftly bringing that to bear. Perhaps it would even be something to the effect of the invocation of the 25th Amendment, or some other manner of impeachment or medical condition that will remove an individual in particular from a position of power. So with that being the case, Spirit, please tell me what will be in the next 6 months for the American people. What are the American people going to be experiencing in the next 6 months? Okay. Prince of Cups. And of course, here we have, I believe that's RFK Jr., not RFK Jr., excuse me, God help me, actual Robert F. Kennedy. And, you know, okay, how do I say this without getting, yeah, okay. So remember what happened to RFK after what happened to JFK? I'm not trying to say it here, but the ending of, let's just say, his campaign was quite swift, and perhaps rode a white horse into the sunset, if you know what I'm saying. And as a result, what I'm seeing is a resurgence with this phoenix energy of the people, right? The American people are going to have hope again, that we can actually come back from this. So I think there is a sense of hope and positivity that will be coming about in the next 6 months. Tell me more. Tell me more about this hope. And I think the hope is a direct and proximate result of the thing we just talked about with the big, beautiful obituary, right? So we are in a stage of potential peace and hope in the next 6 months. Let's talk more. The Prince of Swords again. So we have the Prince of Cups and the Prince of Swords. And this is Jared Kushner on his Throne of Lies. I'm kidding. But the Prince of Swords is meant to mimic the Knight of Swords, which is news that's coming in quickly. Like there's action and truth coming in quickly. So let me get some clarification on that, because I'd like to really speak on that Like what truth is coming in quickly here? The Nine of Cups. Look at that. Beautiful. 4th of July action. Definitely some change in the next 6 months. We have the 4th of July, some kind of celebration, families getting together, maybe striking up the barbecue, getting out the cold ones and celebrating the return of love and unity with this Nine of Cups. That's an energy of love and again, positivity. So it seems to me that maybe the truth is you would expect him to be sadder over what's going to happen, but in fact, he's relieved. I don't think the people around the current leader here are really happy with him right now. I feel like they are almost powerless. It could also mean that some of the things that happen here that may result in that big, beautiful obituary come from within the house, if you will. Someone who is in the family who maybe observes the problem, the medical problem that I'm foreseeing, or takes the action to lead to this celebration. The Chariot, it's going to happen quickly, folks. We're going to be moving forward. And look at this. This is also like the Oregon Trail type wagon, right? We are forging new ground. We are moving forward, people, and we're united, right? Like, I want to really point this out. And this is the next 6 months. We're moving forward in a direction of peace and of hope. And I'm seeing this representation of the horses being the black and the white as, you know, a lot of people have talked about the divisiveness in this country and the split that has been so harsh, has broken up families, you know, has really drawn some very stark contrasts between people. And what I'm seeing is we are getting together as a country in the next 6 months to move forward. And we're still different. We're not, you know, changing who we are. We're not necessarily accepting or happy about positions other people have taken, but we are recognizing the wisdom in uniting for a common purpose. And I believe that that's rebuilding the country. So I'm going to get one more on this, and then we're going to get to the next set of questions I have. And so far, like, I know I sound pretty mellow, but this is great news. Unfortunately, we were visited by Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Princess of Swords, right? This is essentially the Page of Swords. So we're going to be learning from watching other entities, right? The Page of Swords is almost like a spying energy. So it could be that we are being aided in this endeavor by someone that is a foreign agent, but it could also be that we are sick and tired of what's going on and are able to learn from what has happened here. And we're learning by watching how other countries are rebuilding themselves. So I think despite the feeling that we have been abandoned by a lot of our allies, and for good reason. Oh my gosh, I'll show you this in a second, but hold on. I'm just putting it down the side. Despite feeling like we've been abandoned by those around the world, I think that we are going to be able to look to them for lessons and for growth. And they're mad at us, don't get me wrong, but I think we're going to find that they know that we, the people, don't want what is going on. Okay. And like I said, I'm putting these aside for advice, and anyway. And that's overall advice, but what I'm looking for is advice for the people as we go through this next 6 months. And I'm getting a specific deck for that as well. Now, let me ask it this way. How are we feeling in the next 6 months as an American people? How are we feeling? Let's start there. How are we feeling? Four of Wands, beautiful. That is energy of celebration. Once again, that is usually you got weddings with the Four of Wands, stability, a new home, right? We've got Le Roi, so this is the King of Cups here. So we are experiencing emotional confusion. The way I'm looking at this is we want to love, we want to heal, but it's very confusing on how to do that. And I'm saying that because as I look at this octopus, you know, octopi are very, very clever, very intelligent animals, and they use a lot of camouflage to succeed in all their life endeavors. And so I think there's going to be a lot of people who are feeling like they've been exposed for who they are, who are confused as to how to proceed with that. Those around them might be confused, and how do we heal these things? I've got the Ace of Wands again. Remember we had that here. So there's still a looming fear. There's a fear and that this isn't over. That we have, like, just because, you know, there may be that big beautiful obituary and things may settle down. I think there is at the core a fear in the people that it, you know, we don't want to get too excited. You know, there's still problems. This is the Six of Pentacles. So there's going to be more equality coming in. There's definitely, this is, I'm looking at this like an apple, and I'm thinking like apple picking in the fall. So maybe this is something, again, by fall, we're going to start to see some more equality pan out. Some, you know, maybe this is indicative, Spirit, please clarify, but I'm seeing this as indicative of the election in November, that we'll be able to see change and healing. And, you know, an apple a day keeps the dictator away, I guess, in this sense, right? And we have Le Soleil, which is the sun. And that's a happy outcome. So we are, I think, despite this fear and confusion, we want stability, we want healing, and we're feeling like there's optimism, we're positive, we're feeling positive about what's going to happen in November. So on the whole, I'm actually quite surprised with this reading. I was feeling very doom and gloom today, and honestly, I was very scared of what was going to happen. But this is actually quite a comforting message. It's going to get rough for a minute, but I think there will be concessions, like I said, and things will start to improve. We will see the thing we're all waiting for in time, one way or another. Maybe there's removal. Maybe there's immense sickness that accelerates. I think the individual's already ill. But I think we're going to see some major change in the 6 months. And as a collective, we are going to be, you know, feeling better. You know, there's still a fear, but we're going to be feeling better. So the advice is the Two of Swords. Give me just a second. And this, I got a preview of this when I flipped it over, and I thought it was kind of funny. America First and the Knight of Swords, which, by the way, is right on top of this Prince of Swords, right? So just a confirmation on that. What I'm seeing is at the core, right? We were talking about that fear of the battle not being over. There's going to be change, where there's been a lot of rhetoric during this, we'll call it administration, okay? A lot of rhetoric about alternative facts, about actually putting America first, but all of the actions that have happened have not put America first. And I think people are starting to see that. You know, we're not taking care of our own. I mean, we literally just had a speech given about how we can't afford Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP benefits and taking care of health subsidies. We can't take care of our own people, but there's all this money wanted for efforts in Iran. And I think we're going to see change to where this lie that has existed about putting America first actually changes to where we will put America first. We will actually put our people first, and we will heal our nation. And, you know, this, again, more swords. This is a very thoughtful energy. There's going to be a lot of planning in terms of how this is going to be effectuated. With the Two of Swords, it's a little bit of a stall out. It's going to be a slow process to rebuild. And here we've got the sun and the moon. So, you know, not to be too on the nose, but it's almost like there's going to be a balancing in religious aspects. This is traditionally, you know, symbolic of the Muslim faith, and the sun, of course, I'm thinking like the Son of God and Christianity. I'm not trying to get into a faith discussion here, but it's almost like there's going to be more of a balance where together, like the East and the West basically will get together irrespectively of differences and put a pause, put a stop to the dramatic action that's been going on over there, because we're going to be focusing on ourselves, minding our business, putting a stop basically to what we're doing elsewhere. And this Knight of Swords is, you know, the truth of the matter, people. That's what this is. The truth of the matter is cutting through the nonsense. We need to move forward. We need to put America first in truth and not just by rhetoric. And we need to put a pause, a pin in this ongoing battle that's been cooked up between these, you know, different groups. And I think we're going to do that. But don't forget, poking out the side here is always that greed, that interest in money. So now we're going to do something a little bit fun, I suppose. And we're going to talk about, all right, will Pam Bondi lose her law license in addition to her job? Will she lose her law license? Spirit, will Pam Bondi lose her law license? Wait, maybe. That sounds about right for the Florida bar. And again, not legal advice, just thought it'd be a fun question. And will Pete Hegseth be impeached? Will Pete Hegseth be impeached successfully? Will Pete Hegseth be impeached? Be careful what you wish for. Okay, give me one more on that. Which is almost telling me like the next person may be worse, but I don't know. Trust your intuition. So I think we all kind of feel the same, at least the people I know, that what's going on, and by the way, the bottom of the deck is give it time. So I think that's a yes, that he will be impeached. But you know, intuitively, I think we all know that what's going on is, you know, firing all the generals, you know, people that are in the know. Taking these actions or threatening to take these actions is, you know, not, you know, it's prohibited by the Hague Convention. That's just throwing that out there. So that's what I'm thinking there. And then what I'd like to do is get some advice from this deck, which I'll put in the comments, of course, along with the other decks. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I would love to know your thoughts on this. I decided, like I said, to do something different. And here we are. So, all right, what is the advice for my beautiful viewers? It says, they say that sometimes life gives you lemons. Well, I don't want your lemons today, life. You can take your lemons and shove them up your butt. F you. So I think that speaks for a lot of us. We're tired of it. We're tired of making the best of it, right? F you. Sometimes I have a bad day and feel bad about it. And then I remember what a badass I am and still kind of feel bad about it. But whatever. I'm a badass who just needs to feel bad today, okay? And I think that, you know, like I was telling you earlier in this reading, I myself just felt like absolute trash today. And I think it was, you know, out of sheer concern for what's going on in the Middle East right now. And that doesn't change the fact that I'm a badass in every other area of my life. It's just that sometimes we can all have a bad day. We can all feel bad some days. And we don't always have to make lemonade out of bad situations. So in the whole, it's going to get better. I do believe it's going to get better. And I have faith in the people of the United States to rebuild and rise up like that phoenix that we are. So thank you for watching. This is not legal advice. I'm your host, TINLA, and please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time.